Okay, so we are going to get started with the session. Let me quickly spotlight DTM Brahm.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Brahm Memone, for joining our session today. So today's session is a very special session because we have got a very special person with us. Distinguished Toastmaster Brahm, anyone who is on the official Toastmasters page or anyone who's kind of follows what's happening Toastmasters globally would definitely be familiar with the name of distinguished Toastmaster Brahm Memon. I personally know him because of the Global Leadership Summit that he had organized last year. And that's when I got to know about his passion for doing projects which are really big. My definition of a big project was chartering a new club, maybe doing a district conference. And then I saw this man whose definition of doing big is like really big, like where he does sessions where there are 1,000 attendees and so on. Kind of a dream run for any of the Toastmasters to do anything like that. But he successfully manages to pull this off over couple of days. He does it. It's not that it's a one single hour session. It's like multiple sessions and so on. So that needs a different level of charm and a charisma and a networking for someone to pull up something like this at that scale. And that's when we had this thought of having him as a guest speaker in our meeting. And today we have that opportunity to hear from him. So thank you, DTM Ram, once again, and thank you for joining our session. Welcome to the Gabbys Toastmasters Club. And
Thank you.
we'll get started with the discussion. But before that, before we move on to the HPL DTM, I would want to hear a little bit about yourself, Romeo. When did this Toastmasters journey start and what was it like?
Yes.
So, a little, a few minutes, couple of minutes of this.
Well, I will let you into a secret. Most people know that I've been in Toastmasters for 27 years, which means I probably joined in 1996, June of 1996. But they don't know that actually I had joined Toastmasters in 1993. And I was in Toastmasters for 6 months and I had to move away from my city and I had to travel a few thousand miles. And so I got myself out of Toastmasters. So actually, my journey began even much before most of what most people know. And this is the first time I'm ever mentioning this in public. So there you go. Now, the reason why I joined Toastmasters was because at that time I'd decided to be a coach. My background is I'm a chartered accountant. Before that, I was a meteorologist and hydrometeorologist as well. So I've got many different professions under my hat. And as a coach, I consult in large organizations, and human beings are human beings. They act and react the same way. It doesn't matter whether they're in Toastmasters or outside in the real world. And so I come and learn things in Toastmasters. I'll answer that question right now. Why am I in Toastmasters for 27 years? I experiment here. I learn here. I bring my material from outside from the real world and test it out here. So when I'm doing these big projects, I'm actually testing out my marketing material in the real world. But I'm also serving, right? I'm serving to completely giving. I don't mention my professional life at all in Toastmasters and vice versa. And people don't know. People ask me, you never mention your professional life. No, I don't. I'm not here to advertise my professional life, though of course you do see that, but you don't really know what it means, right? So that's me. I totally love Toastmasters, and I am connected with most international presidents. I talk to them often. They come on my podcasts and so on, and my programs often. And hopefully I'm seen in a good light from Toastmasters International. I mean, I don't have any connections there. I don't actually represent Toastmasters International, just to be clear. I'm just an individual Toastmaster doing what I love doing. Thank you, Saurabh.
Thank you so much. And I think that's the best part of it. It's very easy to organize events at any scale if you've got the organization supporting you, having your back. When we do events as district officers, we know that there's a district executive committee which is backing us up. But what you do is as an individual, and that's what makes it even more special. So it's spectacular, 27 years in Toastmaster. I know this question was not something I didn't have on my mind, but I'm just so tempted to ask you this question.
Sure.
Lo, is that how do you motivate yourself? Like, what do you, what do you tell yourself that you come back and you stay back for so long? Because I remember one of the DTM projects that someone had done. This was one DTM in Sri Lanka. She was doing a second DTM project, which was about how to inspire Toastmasters to continue to be in Toastmasters after they've achieved whatever, district directors, past district directors, distinguished Toastmasters, accredited speakers. How do we continue to have them in the Toastmasters fold for years? So, what's your inspiration, motivation?
You have to have a learning mindset, not a fixed mindset, or mindset that, oh, I'm tired, or it's the same old program. I mean, when I was doing the legacy program, how many times do you think I did the CC manual? 8, 9 times, perhaps. How many times do you think I did the icebreaker speech in the legacy program? Many times. Have I done all the 11 parts? No, I've done the 10. I'm not doing the 11th part. I don't think I ever will do that 11th part. Engaging humor. I have no humor in me. So, and I don't want to torture myself, but I've done all the other 10 parts. I've done icebreakers in all those, I've done, your leadership style and your communication style. So it's that passion of really learning that brings me here. Otherwise, the speeches could be the same, but so I bring a different angle to all those things that I'm doing in pathways. If I'm doing dynamic leadership, right, and I'm doing an icebreaker speech, what will I do in dynamic leadership as an icebreaker speech? I can't do the same speech that I did, 20 years ago. So I would speak something that has got dynamism in it and leadership in it, and speak to it from that perspective in an icebreaker speech. So, it's different every time. And then there's always this grounding yourself in the fundamentals of Toastmasters, right? The gestures, the vocal variety, the eye contact, looking in the camera, using the Zoom space. There's so much to learn and so on in the Zoom world. And we've been in the Zoom world now just over 3 years. And have a learning mindset. I've got this curious mindset to learn and do something different while I'm learning. Hence those big projects.
Absolutely agree with you. I think it's about the learning mindset, the growth mindset, and I totally get that. So let's come to the topic that we have at hand. So before I move the project, the first question, and this is more because you are a leadership architect, right? So in your professional capacity. So not in the context of Toastmaster, but generally, how do you as a leadership architect or a Toastmaster leader or a Toastmaster, whatever suits you, define high performance leadership? What is high performance leadership according to Brahm Memone?
That is the biggest missing link, is how do we perform effectively? It's all about being an effective human being, really. So to be an effective human being is the ability to connect with other human beings, to be able to collaborate with other human beings, to be able to create something out of that collaboration that inspires the rest of humanity. I say there, you don't win until you win. You won for humanity. There's no winning otherwise. If you're just winning for yourself and you're just growing yourself and acquiring success all by yourself, that's not success. That's not winning at all. So it's all about strategic planning, thinking through, am I doing the greater good? Am I collaborating with others? Are people getting inspired? Are people coming together for the greater good? That, to me, is high performance. That is something that you're performing beyond the norm. There's a quote, and I paraphrase it, and I'm not sure exactly how it goes, but somebody said, what a child is asking a wise man, what profession shall I take? And said, there's so much competition out there. And the wise man says, there's no competition for being human. Pursue being human first. So I think high performance is all about pursuing being human in the end, according to me. That's the only way you can really effectively become a good performer and become effective. Effective and performance, I just put them together, right? So that's what it is.
I think I already got a laminate quality quote, as I call it. There's no competition to becoming human. I love that line. I'm going to steal this in for one of my speeches with due credits to you. So, how does the Toastmaster Pathways HBL project help in us becoming a better human? Or, in your definition, high performance leadership?
Well, in Pathways, HPL has got, you're asked to develop some core competencies. Most people tend to just skim over the material that's provided by Toastmasters International. I know that very well. People do. When you ask them, did you actually do this test that you were asked to do in the pathway, the project you're doing? They say, what? No, I didn't know. Was it there? Did you actually look through the whole project? Did you read everything? Did you watch all the videos and so on? And so when you do all that material, it really helps you to do a few things. First of all, it's there to develop your confidence level. There's all this material that's available. You should get a mentor, of course, to help you if you are new to level 4 and 5. I know a lot of people who do level 1, 2, 3, leave level 4 and 5 and go to the next path, and so on. And then there's only 1% of the people do DTMs. So it's all about experience and what you're called forth to do. You're called forth to sort of step forward as a leader. And if you let me look at the core competencies, right? It says right here, actually, I've got some notes here, right from the pathways itself, and the assignment for an HPL is what? The purpose of the project is to apply your leadership and planning knowledge to develop a project plan, organize a guidance committee, and implement your plan with the help of a team. Now, see, it says team, all right? And so how are you going to interact with the team? How are you inspiring the team? Now, when we say inspiring, that means you are becoming a better human being. Right there. Without being a better human being and asking others to become better at what they do as human beings, then, there's no inspiration if you're not doing that. So I think the basic part, the foundational level is, are we inspiring others to come together to do, which I'd explained before, right? In the previous question, you said, come together to do the greater good. And so that is so necessary in an HPL project. Are we doing the greater good? My take, of course.
So, and at this point of time, I would want to ask this question. So, how is an HPL project different from a DTM project then? Because HPL project, one aspect is the guidance committee. Is that the only reason, or is there any other difference that's there?
Well, again, if you go back to the pathways, right, and read the objectives of HPL, and so I've got my notes here again to compare the two, because I can't always remember the two together. But here's the thing, right? For HPL, let's look at the core competencies, right? In HPL, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to build a team, identify skills and competencies necessary to complete the project, right? Motivate team members through the project, develop a plan, delegate tasks to a team, and lead with confidence to the successful completion of the project. Clearly stated as a competency that you will gain as an HPL. Now, I don't even want to look at the DTM thing. What it says for the DTM is clearly stated is become a better public speaker, that you exemplify being a public speaker, because now you are doing a DTM project, which means you've done so many different speeches and pathways, right? In level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in first pathway, and then in the second pathway. And I suggest, I'll jump this here, and I'll suggest that when you are doing your third level in your second pathway and you ask for your DTM project, it's just to sort of start priming and planning, but not doing the project yet until you've really finished most of your level 2 as well. I mean, the second pathway before you do your project. And the competencies are what? To exemplify or to demonstrate the skill at public speaking, because you've done now so many speeches and you've done so many projects. So you have to demonstrate that you are good at public speaking, and not merely just stand up and say something, but actually speak not to the audience, but with the audience. And the second one, I look at my notes now. And the most important thing in a DTM project is that you demonstrate very clearly the ethical leadership and Toastmasters values. It is so important. So it could be a project. It could be a very similar project to an HPL project, but you have to demonstrate those things that were not being asked for in an HPL project. The ethical framework, and you there's quite a bit about what an ethical framework is in the path. I mean, in the project itself. When you ask for the project and you read about it, and it tells you all about that. It tells you about what you require as a public speaker and how you should be speaking, and it's all there, which is not stated in the HPL project. Right? So in the HPL project, you may not be a proficient public speaker, you may not have the necessary skills, and you may not necessarily need to go and speak to a large group of people, right? If at all. I mean, you will do that 5 to 7 minute speech, 2 speeches, one at the beginning and one at the end for your project. After you've talked to your guidance committee and all that, you begin, right, in HPL. So the DTM is really a culmination of everything that you've done, including if you've done HPL projects in your pathways. You may not have done it because there are sometimes, you may have chosen a pathway and then, there are electives and you may not have done the elective anyways. So, it's not necessary to have done an HPL project at all when you come to your DTM project. But when you come to your DTM project, you will be asked for all these other things as well. And you better be proficient at those to do a DTM project. Otherwise, don't do the DTM project until you're ready. Right?
Okay, so to sum it up, what you just said, correct me if I'm wrong. So what you're essentially saying is that in the HPL project, the focus is more on the guidance committee, forming a team, bringing the team together, and executing something which is of scale. A DTM project is more like a culmination of all the learnings that you have got as a leader by playing various district roles, club officer roles, the paths, all of that together. And
absolutely.
How do you bring it to the stage in the time when you're giving that particular speech, right? So that's the summary, the gist of what you just said.
Sorry, I'm not very clear on your question. Can you repeat that?
I'm saying, is that a correct, summarization of what you just mentioned in terms of the difference?
Yes.
Okay. So
let me just add here what you're saying and then be a bit more clear. Is exactly what you said is right. When you're doing your DTM final project for the DTM, I hope that most people have already done, the other criteria, being a club coach, club sponsor, whatever it is, being a district officer, being a club president or VP of education, whatever those requirements are. Now, I can't remember all the requirements off the top of my head. And then you actually, become quite proficient at that. You have become proficient at connecting with other human beings, which is the members, right? Because now you are supposed to be creating teams and putting teams together and doing a project. So it means you have that ability to connect with human beings. And when you become a district officer and like area director, division director, or even a district director, at the trio level, whatever that is, you really have to become efficient and good at connecting with people. And that's what you're going to be demonstrating, and especially the ethical framework and the Toastmaster values, right? You will exemplify those and you will actually demonstrate those through the interaction with other human beings. So if, for example, this past week, if you came this past Monday, if you came to my, what was it, a workshop that was geared towards all Toastmasters globally, and about 114 turned up. It was your leadership is a relationship. It was clearly stated, and I talked about the 4 values and how the 4 values help you create relationships: integrity, respect, service, and excellence. And people don't realize that, these are 4 values of integrity. Okay, just have integrity, respect people. Okay, service. Okay, I'll turn up at the meeting and do the timer's role. But there's more to it, really. And so when you really look deeply into these things, it really allows you to see how you're connecting with other human beings and what you're really doing. When you say service and excellence, is service and excellence really present, right? Your commitments and so on. So you're going to sort of, when you're doing your DTM project, it's something really big. It's not just, doing a project, putting up 3 or 4 people together and doing, a club contest or something. That doesn't really justify that, right? At HPL level, sure, you're just vetting your feet, you've done your first pathway and doing an HPL project. Oops, when I do that, just the automatic comes on my screen, that thing. So there is a big difference between an HPL project and a DTM project that way.
And I'll share this with everyone in the room. So this question is what DTM Brahm asked me in our prep call, that what is the difference between an HPL project and DTM project according to you? And all I could say is that, in an HPL project, we have a guidance committee, and there's a guidance committee.
All right.
And this one, and in the DTM project, we don't have. And then he asked
All
me,
right.
is that it? Is that all that you have to say? And I was like, okay, yeah, I think that's the only difference. Then now I know why he asked that question. So thank you so much, DTM Brahm. There's something that I absolutely loved this part of the learning. And I think one very important point you mentioned here, which is kind of my question a little later, but I'll probably bring it up a little up now, because in the course of the discussion, you mentioned that when we are doing the DTM project, we expect that people would have done the rest of it, right? So they would have already done the club support roles, they've done the district officer roles, club officer roles, all the parts, etc. Now, technically, for getting the DTM project activated, you need to only complete the third level of the second path, and the DTM project can be activated, you can complete it. But what I hear you saying is that we will not be able to do justice to the project unless we have completed the rest of the criteria. Is that what you just mentioned as a guidance?
I exactly said this. When you're doing your second path and you're on your third level and you ask for the project, it's really to read up the project, to get familiar with it. My suggestion, it's only my suggestion, to really do great justice to it and to really become a distinguished Toastmaster, right? Here's the thing. Let me just put this way. Saurav, do you know how long it took me to do my first DTM? Nobody knows in this, perhaps in this room. A couple of them from my club may know or remember. But I've said this before. It took me 19 years to do my first DTM. And here's the reason why it took me 19 years to do my first DTM. Is that I didn't want to do a DTM because there were many DTMs that I met along my journey who said they were DTMs, but they didn't inspire me. You heard that right. They didn't inspire me. They didn't even know how to speak properly in public. They didn't even know how to do a project properly. They didn't know how to start a club or mentor a club. They didn't know how to mentor a member in that club, right? And when people would stand up and speak earlier on, when I first joined Toastmasters, and they say, and people would whisper, amongst themselves, oh, he's the DTM, but look, he doesn't know how to speak. And I was disenchanted. And this is in the legacy program, of course, but then along the way as well, people are doing the DTMs in 1 year or 2 years. And I said, and when you ask them, can you coach somebody or mentor somebody? Can you coach a club? And they can't. All right. And so what is the DTM for then? I'm not inspired. That's the reason it took me 19 years to sort of a would-be district director was doing a DTM project. And he said, Brahm, he called, and I never met him. I'd only talked to him once on the phone. And out of 2,000 people, he called me and said, I want you to come and be the president of this club. And I said, me? You hardly know me. I just spoke to you once on the phone. He said, there's something different about what you said to me. And I want you to become and I said, I don't want to do a DTM project. But then I realized that this man that I'd spoken to was different as well. And he went on to become the district director and so on. And we did form that club. This was in 2014-15 in the physical days. And it took about 2 months during the winter time, from December to January. Within 2 months, we created the club. And in winter time in where this part of the world is very difficult, but we did. So that's when I got inspired. So, okay, yeah, DTM. Then I applied for, all the criteria, whatever I needed to do to complete my DTM. In those days, there was no DTM project, by the way. There was only one HPL project that you did at the end. And that's the project I was helping this gentleman create the club. And there was another project I did. I mean, there was a club sponsor, I think. And the project I really did was this. I became the VP of education in my club. My club was one of those, there were about 200 clubs, more than 200 clubs in my district at that time before they split it up. And we were almost at the bottom, and I was angry. I don't belong to a club that is at the bottom. I always belong to somebody that's up. And so I said, I'll take on the VP of education role. And I said, this will be my DTM project. From the lowest club in the district, I'll bring it to the highest club in the district. In those days, HPL project. And I did. It became one of the top clubs in the district. And the following year, we won actually the club of the year in the district as well. So what I'm saying is I get disenchanted with people when they are doing DTMs, and I still look at them and they don't have that proficiency of either public speaking or ethical, or they don't know what the ethical framework is, or they don't know what the values of leadership, Toastmaster internationalism, what it really means. You know, when you really actually walk the talk of being a leader, they don't really understand what it means. And so I suggest that you do the project after you've done everything and you really are proficient in all these things, and then do the project. So even though you may have started at level 3, your second path, and you've gotten your DTM project, read through it and start preparing it, but wait until you really understand all the things that are being required to do. It's not a competition as to how fast you can do. Some people say, I did all 10 pathways in 1 year, and I say, I'm not impressed. Did you really ground yourself in the fundamentals? Are you really a very good speaker if you did that many speeches? No. So why? See what I'm saying? I go for quality as well. Quality has to be there. Excellence is our key thing. Are you excelling at things? Service and excellence. Are you really walking the talk? Are you really walking the values of Toastmasters? So that's my perspective. Only mine. Personal. I don't represent Toastmasters International. I must mention that again. So,
no, I do understand that you don't represent Toastmasters International, but I will have to say this. I have been guilty of doing this, at least in my initial days when I started
yes.
off one of my path in less than 3 months, and I was on a total high. I've done something spectacular, and I was then wanting to do the next path in 1 month or something. And then there was a milestone meeting where I mentioned this. I gave a target to my clubs, the club members, saying that I would want some of you to beat this, kind of finish it up in 1 month. So the guest speaker, I think, or the guest in the audience was DTM Deepak Menon. He was the immediate past international president.
Yes.
He called me after that and he said that, Saurav, this is not a healthy target to take. You should not be giving your club members a target to finish off paths faster. You should give them the target of making the learning stronger. So there's no prize. Yes. We are not doing a sprint. It's a marathon. And there's no gold medal for finishing first. So what you just said kind of resonates a lot of the learnings that I've got from other celebrity Toastmaster leaders across the world. So I think you speak for a lot of people actually here. So I'll change the gears a little bit and come back to the HPL project. So a bit of a technical question I have here. So the HPL requires a guidance committee, right? So this is sometimes what confuses people. How big should be the guidance committee? Who should be there on the guidance committee? What's the role of the guidance committee? Is there a success factor? Is the guidance committee also like an appraisal committee which will evaluate the success of the project? So can you explain a bit more about the guidance committee? Because I know for your leadership summit, you had a guidance committee of district leaders, right? District directors and all, past district directors.
So here's the thing. For a DTM project, you're right, you don't need a guidance committee, but I had one.
The HPL. I'm coming back to HPL now.
I know. Project, but I just want to make it clear though, right? For a DTM project, you don't need one, right? According to the criteria. But I had one. met of the district directors, actually. So that's what you're really talking about. Now, for HPL projects, you have to have a guidance committee for sure. And let me answer the question for you. And I think the criteria is clear. I can't remember everything off the top of my head, but I think they say at least 2 to 3 people should be on your guidance committee, one of which should be a Toastmaster, at least one. And the other 2 could be, because you could be doing a project outside of Toastmasters. HPL project could be anywhere. It doesn't have to be in Toastmasters. It could be in your organization. It could be in your volunteer organization. It could be in a senior home, fundraising for worthy cause, whatever it is, right? Could so it's outside of Toastmasters. And so some people who are familiar with what you're doing from outside of Toastmasters could be in a guidance committee. So, but one person from your club or from Toastmasters as well, because they want to guide you through the of course, what we really do at Toastmasters, right? The values that we want to exemplify. When we go outside in the world and say, I'm doing a Toastmasters project, we want to make sure that you walk the Toastmasters values, that you exemplify them, that you're working in accordance with our vision statement, our mission statements, our values, right? And who we are as Toastmasters. As well as, of course, an experienced Toastmaster has done a project before. Hopefully, that's the one you should be getting. So they can mentor you. It's really a mentorship thing, a guidance committee. And so you have to look at it as, am I getting the right mentorship? Are they really seeing me through? It's not about, let me correct, it's not about making sure that the project is successful. You could fall flat on your face, doing the project. What I mean is, you could say, and I did fall flat in my project, in my last project. I said, I'll have 5,000 people this year in July, at the Global Leadership Impact Summit. So it became an HPL project from a DTM project into an HPL project. And this year I had a target of 5,000 people. Did I get 5,000 people? No. Did I get even 1,000? No. And I had that expectation that people were just burning out. They said, oh, last year we attended, it's the same thing, and only 500 attended. So did I fall flat on my face? I don't know. Did I meet the 5,000 target? And so was I successful? You could use that criteria and say, no, I wasn't successful. So success is measured in growth. How much are you really growing? Did you have the ability to put a team together? Did you guys work together? Did you create the project, and did the project move forward? And suppose it was about fundraising. You said, I'll raise $10,000. You raised only $500. So what? Did you gain something? Did you become more confident as a Toastmaster? Did you learn more about our values and our mission? Did you learn about putting a team together and get them inspired and become more confident as a team player, as a collaborator, as a connector? That is where success comes from. Success doesn't come from the other measurements that you may have set yourself for. And so you could take that learning and say, now, where did I actually not meet those targets? Or what was my marketing like? Or what did we not do well? Who was not doing well in that project on my team that I could have inspired better and to get the results that we really wanted for the next one or the next time? Or make sure that you do that in your DTM project, right? And so on. So success is always not about meeting the actual target number, but about your growth. It's all about your growth, your club's growth, your people around you growth. That is the success target one has to use. And any district officer or international president will tell you the same thing, by the way.
So, I mean, this was again a very enlightening revelation for me, because I always considered success as a hard metrics. Probably it's because of the background that I come from, where I work with a lot of data, and for me, numbers mean everything. So I get a different perspective that yes, you may not have met your target, but then the learning that comes with it is what actually strengthens your journey. Thank you so much.
Sorry, if I may interrupt here for you, right? When somebody does a speech, right, and they don't fully meet the objectives, you cannot fail them. You cannot say you must repeat this speech before you can go forward. No, you can't. All they get an evaluation. Here's what you did well. Here's all these improvements that you could make to your speech and to this particular project, and this will take you to your next level of greatness. And can you incorporate this in your next speech? And they can move on to the next speech. They don't fail. In Toastmasters, you don't fail. In Toastmasters, you must be willing to have a learning mindset and say, okay, yeah, I didn't put in that much effort, or I misread the project and I really didn't really read all the resources, whatever the cause may be. And so let me do better at the next one, right? That is the mindset we must have at Toastmasters. How can I learn better? What did I do? Self-assessment, right? Always, any speech that you do, your skills beforehand and the skills after you've done the speech, it's always there, right? You have to assess yourself, and based on your assessment, you move forward according to your speed. You are supposed to be a self-directed person, and that's the most difficult thing for human beings to do, and we are asked to become better self-directed. Actually, at Leadership Speak, our club motto is how to become a better self-directed leader, to take charge of your journey in Toastmasters, to take charge of your life outside of Toastmasters. And it's the most difficult thing for anyone to learn, and this is a great opportunity at Toastmasters to learn that. So hence, you never fail, but it's all about did I put in the necessary effort? Did I become effective? Am I becoming more effective through doing these projects? That is the mindset you want. That is the learning mindset, right?
Thank you so much. This is very, very interesting. So what I want to ask you now is I'm going to give you a couple of projects, which are very popular, particularly in this part of the world. The kind of projects that people do in DTM or HPL. So if you can advise me with a little bit of an explanation that which of these are good for an HPL project or a DTM project or none, or good for them. So
Sure.
one of the most popular ones, chartering a club. People generally use chartering a club as a HPL project or a DTM project. So do you think it's a good DTM or HPL project or no?
Chartering a club is not a DTM project, or shouldn't be a DTM project, because then you're killing two birds with one stone. And here, let me explain to you why. Chartering a club is part of your DTM. To get a DTM, you should be a club sponsor, one of the criteria. And so it shouldn't be a DTM project and sponsoring as one. They should be separate. But chartering a club could be an HPL project. Yeah, absolutely. See, because that's an elective project or whatever, or a couple of parties have it as mandatory. Sure, but not as a DTM project. DTM project should be separate from why you're getting the DTM. This is a separate thing, and this is keep that as a separate thing. And so all these questions you're going to ask me, that's the criteria we'll be using. So go and ask me.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think you made one very interesting revelation here, and I think every one of us should make a note here. It's a common practice nowadays that you don't necessarily charter a club to become a DTM. You find a club which is getting chartered and you kind of request someone, kind of do your own networking and become a club sponsor there. And that way you get the credit of the club sponsor, right? But as DTM Brahm mentioned, I think that is probably not the right way of doing it. The right way of doing it is
I would not suggest that.
club and you get the credit, right? So
Saurav, let me tell you this. When I was chartering Leadership Speak, people turn up from all over the woodwork and say, "Can I become a club sponsor? Can I become a club mentor?" I said, "No." No, you can't. You can't become a club sponsor mentor. You're not going to do any work. You're just going to sit there and just get the credit. No. Simple. No.
lovely.
So, me and my co-founder, we did the work, right? We created the club, and then we became the club mentors to the club we'd sponsored and founded. So we got both the credits, and we actually did mentor it. And you can see where Leadership Speak is. So, we don't just want people to turn up and say, hey, just, jump on the bandwagon and no work is done. And so there's no learning. I would say, no, you can't, period. That's mine. You do the work and we recognize you, and my standards are very, very high standards, as most people know here. So, extreme high standards, which it should be. Excellence, service and excellence has to be present. If I don't see that being present, you can be on my team. Absolutely, right?
Thank you. This is something which is very important for us to make note of, because I think this is very different from how we do things, and this is how it should be done. So as you mentioned, it's not about being successful or failing. It's about how are you being successful? How are you failing? If you're failing and you're learning, that's much better than being successful by cutting corners, kind of going that route. Okay. So the next project that is very popular is running a division or a district conference as a conference chair.
That could be a DTM project, absolutely, because then you are actually putting together a huge team of people, and you're actually at the center of that team. You'll be asked to speak at the conference, public speaking, proficiency at public speaking. You'll be asked to exemplify, the core values, integrity, respect, service, and excellence. And service and excellence has to be present in a conference. As you know, the conference starts right on time and minute by minute, 2 or 3 or 4 days, however long the conference is, of how many hours each day is, every minute is counted. You have there's somebody, right, that counts every minute, and the timers are there. There's so many timers and counters and so on, making sure that we are right on time, and no speaker is allowed to go overboard more than what's allowed, and so on. It's such a huge task, and I've done a conference chair very effectively. We had some of the largest number of people, actually the maximum number of people joined that conference. Me and the lady who was my conference chair, she went on to become a district director after that. So it is a DTM project for sure, because of all the things that are involved in that. It's definitely not an HPL project, because everything that you've done you'll be called upon to sort of show your competencies, that you really are being effective, like putting together big teams together from your district, from all different parts of your district, coming together to create this project. It's a wonderful project to do, by the way. If you haven't been a conference chair, I recommend you become a conference chair. Big growth opportunity there.
Thank you. The next one, organizing a YLP or a speechcraft program.
Again, because the YLP or speechcraft program gives you a DTM, part of your DTM criteria, shouldn't be a DTM project. It should be an HPL project, or not just do that project, or keep it as part of an HPL project. So whenever you do something that's part of an HPL project, however, you should go above and beyond what is really required. You go that many extra few miles, really, because now you're doing this project and that project, and collapsing them together. Go that extra mile, involve more people than necessary in your teams, so that everybody grows together faster, is my suggestion only. But yeah, absolutely.
And the last one, this is an absolute favorite in this part of the world. Activities that you do as an area director or a division director.
Again, you will get a DTM out of that, so don't collapse it with your DTM project. If you do it with you as an HPL project, again, if you're willing to go above and beyond what you normally do as an area director, then by all means do that. For example, if in your area, right, you have say 4 clubs, and 3 of the clubs have got about 12 members, right? And there's only 4 clubs, and one club is 20. And then you say, okay, I'll raise all these clubs to be more than 20 members, and I will add 1 extra club to the area, and really set to work and find out all the club champions in all those areas and put them together, and the area council, and you do more work than is necessary, and you really do something above and beyond. I'd call that an HPL project, absolutely, and do it. So, and then the results will be that, you will see the results as well. People will be more engaged, right? This is the main thing, getting more people engaged, more connections happening, more collaboration happening, and growth happening, right? Because this is what a district is supposed to do: grow the district in terms of membership, and grow the district in terms of clubs. And if you really exemplify that, by all means, do it as an HPL project. I know most area directors, they'll just visit the clubs twice a year. They might meet with the president and the area council and the VP of education, and do an area council meeting 3 or 4 times a year, and they've done their job. That's the minimum that you're required to do, and you did it. So that's not an HPL project.
This is awesome. Thank you so much. And with this, we are now going to open up the floor for questions. I already have a couple of questions on chat, so I'll take that first, though one of that question has already been answered. So Angela had 2 questions. The first one is, can you give an example of a DTM project? And I think we have already discussed that, quite a few examples of DTM projects. So the other question is, what is the responsibilities of a club sponsor? I think the club mentor, club coach role is pretty much clearly defined. The club sponsor, sometimes it creates a confusion. So DTM Brahm, very clearly, we have done 3 DTMs. What is the responsibilities of a club sponsor? You have chartered many clubs also.
So a club sponsor is supposed to charter a club, to help charter a club. And so you, and there may be a co-sponsor, or you by yourself. So there's always two people. You may also have, if you wish to have club mentors who are separate than the sponsor. The sponsor could then become a club mentor if they wanted to. If not, you could have club mentors. So you would gather a team. Right? Me and my co-sponsor, and then I'll have these two as mentors when the club is formed. So you work together to create the club. So you will hold demo meetings. You'll have launch meetings. Demo meetings first to show the public what this Toastmasters Club is all about, what we really do in our Toastmasters Club. And so they said, oh yeah, okay, I want to become a speaker, and this in my local area, and sure, I'll join it and be near my home, and I can walk over and just going to meet on this and this day, right? That's what a sponsor is doing with his co-sponsor, and with the help of mentors. They're already working as when people are coming and saying, look, I'll join, and they sign in this form of joining. You say, oh, this guy could be the VP of membership. This guy could be VP of education as well, as people start saying the interest in the club and so on. So that's what a club sponsor is. It is the initiation of forming a fully fledged club that becomes chartered, that you find 20 people who will actually join, sign the form, pay up the fee, and is paid to Toastmasters International. Of course, before that, the sponsor will also file with Toastmasters International the intention to create a club, whatever that is called now. That term for intention of creating a club, paying $150 or something, US dollars or something.
Club charter fees,
yeah, and so on. So that's all required for being a club sponsor.
So what just DTM Brahm Memone just mentioned. So if you look at it doing the right way, the club sponsor is the person who should be identifying a potential club, helping that club charter, bringing in 20 people together, deciding or helping them decide who's going to be the president, the VP, and so on, because they don't understand the election process. They don't understand Robert's Rules of Order. So you help them in the early stages, help them guide when they should have the weekly meetings, what should be the format of the meetings and those kind of things. And then you have the mentors who will take the journey forward. Unfortunately, the confusion comes because, as I said, it's more like a reward posting where, and reward points for loyalty, or, people just picking it up when a club is already chartered or is in the process of charter. And that may get us the credits, but that will not come with the learning. I think that's what is very clear from what DTM Brahm just mentioned.
This is Saurav. Let me add this here, as well. Yeah. Don't do anything in Toastmasters that you cannot use outside in the world. So if you're not learning and growing in Toastmasters, you're just getting the badge and the title. Don't do it. Because a DTM in Toastmasters, you go to IBM and say, I go to DTM. What is DTM? We don't know. I don't know. I don't care.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why, it's kind of, it doesn't make sense when we put it on our LinkedIn profile that I am, this, comma DTM, because no one really understands, or to be very honest, doesn't give a damn of what DTM is outside of Toastmasters. What they look at is a
you will not find anywhere. I mean, you guys put DTM or once in a while, once in a blue moon. On my graphic, when I'm doing something, I'll put DTM at the end of my graphic, for Toastmasters. But I've said in the real world, nobody even knows what I'm DTM. How they know that I'm a leader and speak confidently is through the filters I use and how I connect with human beings. That's how I make connections in the real world, and not because I say, oh, I'm a DTM. Okay, so what? I mean, I don't even get impressed when somebody says I got a PhD in philosophy. I don't care. I care about who are you as a human being. So.
Okay. So any other questions from the floor? We are open for questions now. You will have 10 minutes for any questions that's already not covered, or if you want to know more about something. You can unmute yourself and ask the questions directly as well. So there is no restrictions that you can't do that. Just ensure that the questions are relevant and connected with the session. Any questions from the floor?
I have a question.
Yes, Angela, please.
So, for my level 5 project, I'm an area director, and I'm organizing the area director contest. Is that sufficient for that credit, for that pathway to finish that pathway?
Is it an HPL project?
Yes.
Sorry. And so if it is an HPL project and you're doing an area contest, for sure it is. And the criteria is, are you bringing a team together? Do you have a guidance committee, right? And whatever the other criteria are, I'm just going to bring that up again here. Are you going to build a team, right? Are you going to motivate those members for the project? Are you going to develop a plan? Is it with well-defined goals? Are you going to delegate tasks to the team members and provide support? Lead with confidence and successful completion of the project. Those are the core competencies for the project, right? So if you meet that, and the purpose of the project is to apply your leadership skills and planning knowledge to develop a project plan and take it to fruition. And an area contest is okay as far as you meet that criteria. Like we said, you cannot fail in Toastmasters. It's your growth. Did you grow? Did the people in your team grow? Right? And are they going and will the area contest, when it's done, people say it was done well? Because
right,
other projects you could fall flat. You say I'll have 50 people in this meeting and 10 people turned up. You could fall flat. That's fine. But in a contest, it has to be run properly, right?
right.
The chief judge is there, the judges are there, the timers and the counters and all those things that happen in a contest. And when people come in and they leave, they said this contest was run well. There were no sort of glaring errors and mistakes that happened that put the contest at a risk, right? So those sort of things are very, very necessary in implementing in a contest. So as an HPL project, it's perfect way to grow if you really do grow in that.
Okay.
And by the way, Angela is a member of my leadership speak. She's a dual member. So thank you, Angela, for the.
Okay, thank you.
Question.
Yes, please.
I earned my DTM in 2019, and in my club, I am the only DTM. No one else has ever been interested in becoming a DTM. And before the meeting, I put this question in my registration form. How can I motivate other members to earn their DTM? Well, now having been through the meeting, I'm wondering if I should try to persuade anyone to earn their DTM, or if it has to come from inside. So change my question a bit.
DTM Brahm.
What should I do?
You don't have to do anything. Who you become is what's more important than what you're doing. So in your everyday life, in Toastmasters, when you go to meetings, who are you? How do people see you? What are you exemplifying? Are you walking the talk of a DTM? Do they see you as a DTM? When you walk into the room, do you walk around the room and greet everyone? Do you ask if people have mentors and are they being mentored? You don't have to have any title in the club, whatever. You don't have to be a president, a VP of education, or a VP of membership or a mentor or whatever. You walk into a room and people know you're a DTM by the way you conduct yourself. And when people see that, they say, you got something that I don't have. What is it? And you say, it's through Toastmasters, I became a DTM, and this is what I do. And you should become a DTM, and I'll fully support you. What are your dreams and what are your goals? What are your desires? How can I help you grow? And that's when things happen.
So if people ask you, oh, you're not a DTM after the way you're conducting yourself, I think that should be the real motivation to actually go for a DTM.
Which is what I've said right from the beginning of this interview, right? Why do you really need a DTM? I was never impressed with DTMs that I came across. That's why I never did a DTM. I said, if that's the value of being a DTM, I don't want to do one, right? But then after I made this to be a district director, and he sort of pushed me into it. I said, okay, I'll do the DTM.
I have a question from one of the member in the audience, and I've been asked not to put name the question they want to put anonymously. So the question is that how do we ensure the ethics when we see others are not following ethics? So I think where the question is coming from is that, okay, I am a part of this session. I heard you that I should not be taking a club sponsor credit if I did not charter the club. I get that. But then I see someone taking the club sponsor credit by not chartering the club, probably the club doesn't even know that they have a club sponsor by that name. It happened to our own club as well, with the club mentors.
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what do we do about that? Like, how do I motivate myself, or what do I tell myself that, someone else is getting it without doing anything? So why are you going by the rule?
Why do you want to compare yourself to anybody else? That's it. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. Follow your own path. Follow your integrity. That's it. Don't look at anybody else. This world is full of fools, and this world is full of wise people. Which one are you going to follow? The fools or the wise people? You choose your wisdom. You choose your path.
I see a question from Kalpana. Kalpana, allow me to ask this on your behalf. I find a TM in our club who fulfills most of the qualities who's entitled to get DTM status. Okay, but what's your question, Kalpana? You can ask the question. Kalpana, you there?
Yeah, 1 minute.
Okay, so we'll wait for her to get ready with the question. Anyone else has a question in the meanwhile? Any other question from the audience? Oh, okay. The question says, I think it's more a tactical question. I find a TM in our club who fulfills most of the qualities of who is entitled to get a DTM status. He's a true inspirer, but got the DTM status. I wonder why not got this. Okay, so she says that there's someone in the club who is inspirational and should be a DTM, but is not a DTM, and she wants to understand why. So, Kalpana, if that person has not filed a DTM, then obviously, if someone like, as Brahm said, that I don't believe in DTMs in the first place, there are many people who are inspirational Toastmasters who have not filed a DTM, and they're totally comfortable with it. In fact, I think most of us don't know that, or maybe many of us know this already, that the first WCPS who was a DTM is Verity Price, right? Or is the second WCPS to be a DTM. I think apart from that, most of the world champions of public speaking, they're not distinguished Toastmasters. It's not necessary for you to become a DTM. It's not mandatory to make the most of your Toastmasters journey. One last question we'll take, because we are at the fag end of the hour, is just curious to know your perspective with regards to the pathways changes in 2024 from 11 to 6. Not exactly related to this, but I think it's a very relevant question. What are you looking at that with? Like any insights that you have, anything that we don't know?
No, I don't represent Toastmasters Internationals. I have no idea. all I know is that I think I had a list somewhere here. I'm looking for my notes here, if somewhere. But as you know, there's going to be 6 parts, right? Rather than the the new LMS will launch with 6 parts: dynamic leadership, engaging humor, which I won't be doing, motivational strategies, presentation mastery, visionary communication, and persuasive influence. And persuasive influence is the only one that has got HPL as mandatory, not an elective. Everything else is elective. What we want to have team collaboration, strategic relationship, leadership development, innovation planning, and effective coaching. We won't have those anymore. I think the reason is that there's a lot of projects that are in some of those paths that will already be there in the other paths that are going to be there after 2024. And not only that, but I think they're going to add a few more projects into each of those parts, I believe. And there's going to be something else called explorations that said in some email, which we don't know what it really is. They're still working on some details that are being kept secret. We don't even know when it will come on board this in 2024. In the first 6 months, they've said. You probably saw an email yesterday as well, about that. There have been so many emails in the past few days. Just look at your email folder about this. So as much as I do, everyone is getting the same emails. And since I don't work for Toastmasters International, nor am I a district director, I have no privy to any information. I have as much information as any other lay member.
So, and then that's totally okay. I think we all know whatever we know from the Toastmaster, whether it's good or bad, how will it impact us, we'll know in the next few months. So let's see how it goes. We can always give our feedback.
Saurav, I don't think there's anything bad. People are always arguing about the legacy program is better for those who've done legacy programs. And I said, it's done, it's gone. Let's go on with the pathways. And so what? If there's leadership, if I'm doing level 2 and there's your leadership style and your communication style, and the next pathway is the same thing. So what? I have to do it differently. Look at how I can do it rather than seeing exactly, because you won't do 10 different paths. Then look at how you're going to do it differently and what you're going to say differently. Use your creative brain, right? Rather than complain. Don't complain. I'm not a complainer, I'm a learner. I learn. What else can I do differently? So that's what you could do. So when the 6 parts come out, stop complaining and say, what can I do differently? What are they trying to do here, and how can I sort of align with that, whatever they're doing? That's the way I will be doing it. It's up to you what you want to do.
Thank you so much. I think I'll just quickly sum up the session. What did we start with? We started with what's a high performance leader. A high performance leader is, first of all, a good human. The good news is there is no competition to become a good human. So that is clearly a blue ocean. We can all become good humans to become a high performing leader. We talked about how high performance leadership project of Toastmaster and DTM projects are different. What DTM Brahm mentioned is that the HPL project is something where the focus is more on the project, the execution, what are you achieving out of the project. The DTM project, on the other hand, is a culmination of all the learnings that we have got from the different DTM criteria, be it being the club support role, the club officer roles, the district officer roles, the learnings that we bring together, the DTM project speech that we are giving. So it should not be like one single project, but something that's impacting a lot. He also mentioned one very important thing is that it's not important for us to succeed by hard metrics to file a project or to say that we have been successful in completing the project. What is important for us to have the right learnings. So how are we succeeding? How are we failing? Are we getting the right learnings that we are taking? In fact, he says that there's nothing like failing. You're either learning or doing, right? So I think that's what he mentioned. And there are a couple of projects that we talked about, which I asked him whether it's a DTM project or an HPL project, and he talked about those. You can go through the recording. We will be sharing the recording on our YouTube channel where you can go and see which are the projects, how did you classify that. But on an overall, the metric that, one of the parameter that he used is that if you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone, then it's not good enough to become a DTM project, because the objective here is not for you to quickly get it done, but to get it done in a solid fashion so that you get all the learnings along with you.
Exactly.
And most importantly, DTM is something that you should not pursue if you don't see yourself as a DTM, if you don't see yourself as someone who's that people would look up to, walk up to, and want to reach out to for help, look at you as an inspiration. And that's why DTM Brahm mentioned that I will not do a DTM. I thought I'll not do a DTM initially because I didn't see why should I become a DTM. So that was Distinguished Toastmaster Brahm Memone for you, one of the most celebrity Toastmasters that I know, someone that I look up to, a distinguished Toastmaster or not a distinguished Toastmaster. Thank you so much, DTM Brahm, for joining us today. And thank you everyone for joining us in this session. We would be putting the link of this session shortly in various groups. Until then, let's keep learning, let's keep growing. Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.